we are honestly a little panicked around these parts about Justin Fields. Is there any way to polish that turd from yesterday in your mind when you look at the film?
Yeah, actually, and I'm not just doing this to be pro Justin Fields or a contrarian, and I kind of read some stuff this morning how negative everything is in Chicago right now. First, you got to start with you never apologize for a win. Okay, so just start there. It's hard to win in the NFL. They put together 4 really nice offensive drives to score points, 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals. They ran the ball incredibly well, which is a huge sign for any team. I mean, I guarantee you Tom Brady wishes the Bucs were running it better. So that's a huge sign. The 2 interceptions are horrible. Now, the first one is not a bad decision. The first one, he just loses control of the ball. He kind of comes out funny, gets way too out in front of the tight end, makes the right read. His eyes start in the right place. His feet are right. He just loses control of the ball. So that happens to people. You hope it doesn't happen a lot. And let me finish on the first one. The first one would be a problem a huge problem if the rest of the game he struggled with the same type of accuracy problems, but he didn't. That was he really had 2 that I can remember bad misses, the interception and then the swing route to the right where he throws it too far out in front of the wide receiver. I might be forgetting one other, but he was not habitually inaccurate. The second interception is just awful. I mean, it's a lack of awareness of the safety rotation. I think he gets tricked. Then he kind of panics and tries to throw it to the inside bender when he has the outside rail and the guy in the flat wide open. The guy in the flat may or may not get the first down. So that one's awful. But then you look at it with an objective eye, and he comes back off the second interception and rips that I don't know what you'd call it, stop route in the middle of the field to Mooney and versus really tight coverage. They have a couple nice bootlegs. He does some nice things. So, no, I do not think this is the sky is falling. I think these are some correctable mistakes that he will continue to make throughout the rest of the season. Hopefully they just become a little bit less often.
One thing on that second interception, you tell me if this is nitpicking or if it's a window into mindset. When he was talking about the play in post yesterday, he said, I saw the pressure and then I saw they were in cover 2. Just the fact that the pressure comes out first in his conversation that fits what we think we're seeing a lot, which is that he feels the pressure and notices that as opposed to seeing the coverage and just kind of trying to play on time based on the coverage. He mentioned the pressure first. Is that nitpicking?
Well, so I think he's talking about, and again, I don't know, I'm not in his brain. I think he's talking about the pre-snap pressure look.
Okay.
So it looked like they were going to, so again, this is going to bore a lot of people, but they're in like a one high shell with the safety inserted down low, where it looks like they could be bringing a pressure package. And then at the snap, that one high safety rotates to the half, the whole safety rotates to the other half, and they go to a split safety cover 2 look. I think that's what he's talking about. Here's one thing. I went through the game once, and then I went back through it again on the sacks, because the sacks usually determine, like, is a guy not handling the pocket well. And one of my biggest things I look for is how a guy handles the pocket. And if the narrative there is that he's seeing the rush, I disagree with that. I think he's feeling the rush and not climbing necessarily into the right spots, but feeling it, overseeing it is a good thing. He only took 1 bad sack, and that was early in the game. He's looking left on a quick pass. I can't remember what quarter it was, first or second quarter. And then he steps to the left and falls into a sack when he could have stepped up inside. And that's one of the hardest things for quarterbacks to learn, is to step away from where their eyes are looking. So you guys can do it in the studio right now. If you're looking left naturally, and you know, the defensive line is beating the offensive line, you're going to want to step to where your eyes are looking. Really what you want to do is you want to step away from where your eyes are looking, because that's where the soft spot in the pocket's going to be a lot of times. A couple of sacks, they just got on him so quick. He's actually trying to get through his progressions, or he's trying to step up, and they're just on top of him. The naked bootleg sack, they guessed right when 5 sacks in the fourth quarter. So I thought the sacks, if you're grading out the sacks, my guess is he only gets credit for one of them, and the other ones are on the offensive line.
Trent Dilfer with us, Parkins Spiegel on the score. We're going to do this at 4 o'clock after every Bears game with Trent Dilfer watching the film. I'm worried that the lack of confidence that Luke Getsy is showing with some of the game management decisions.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you watched the film or the game and you were noting like time and score, but a couple of them for you. So opening drive of the game, they reach the Texans 35-yard line, 3rd and 10. They run a draw to David Montgomery, gains 5 yards. It makes a 52-yard field goal attempt, a 47-yard attempt. They make it. I guess the argument there for me would be pass it, let him try to figure it out. The kicker can make it from 52 also. Counter argument would be he could take a sack and make you out of field goal range altogether. I would take the risk. Then one that really bothered me, 10 minutes left in the second quarter. They're up 10-7, 3rd and 6 on their own 14-yard line. They run the ball with their third-string running back for 2 yards and punt. 3rd and 6, if you're not trusting your quarterback to throw, I don't know what the hell you're doing. And then when they picked up the first down at the end of the half, at their own 29-yard line, there were about 40 seconds left. They had all their timeouts. They don't call a timeout to let him take a shot downfield to try to maybe get into field goal possession. And then if it's an incomplete, you could run the ball. Those were 3 plays in the first half where I was like, man, they really aren't trusting him at all. What do you make of that?
Yes. So that was a note I made. The 3rd down runs, and I'm guessing, here would be my guess with my time in the media too. When that happens, the fan base follows the coaching decision. And they say, oh my gosh, offense coordinators and trust quarterback. I'm going to pile on the quarterback. The sky's falling. Nobody trusts the quarterback. He's awful. And I get that. And when I was watching the game, I felt the same way. Why aren't they letting them throw? I agree with you. The 3rd and 6, when they only get 2 yards, that one was horrible. The 3rd and 10, I can go either way with that. There's so many things the head coach is dealing with in his head. That might have been the head coach saying, hey, let's get 5 to get the field goal. I've heard that done, and the offense coordinator has no say in it. So I don't know what happened there. The 3rd and 6, I thought was brutal. The end of the half, I thought was brutal.
Okay.
And I too was like, what's going on? You got to let this kid play. I want to spin this to, excuse me. I want to spin this to kind of a bigger picture here, because I think there's 2 different philosophies, and both have proven to be right and both have proven to be wrong. So you really don't know, but I think the Bears are definitely falling into one of these philosophies. So you look at the Russell Wilson, Ben Roethlisberger development. I'll just use those 2. That's kind of what the Bears are doing. High volume of carries, very safe in the passing game, mitigate all risk in the passing game, and play a very defensive-centric, run the ball, play really good special teams. Let's try to win as many games this season as possible. And the quarterback will develop over time, and we'll give him a little bit more as the year goes on. You got to go back and watch Russell's first year, Ben's first year, Ben's second year, and that's kind of their developmental path. The other developmental path is, let's call it Peyton Manning. And by the way, Tom Brady was on that path too when he took over the job from Bledsoe with Belichick. The other developmental path would be, let's use an old guy, Peyton Manning, and let's use a young guy, Justin Herbert. Those philosophies, and maybe Justin's not the greatest one, but it's an okay one. Those philosophies are, we're going to win a Super Bowl in a few years. We're not necessarily trying to win every close game. We're not going to manage every game just to win the game in front of us. We're going to try to pour gasoline on the development of the quarterback and give him the entire playbook, play a little more aggressively. We know a lot of mistakes are going to come with that, but we'll live with those mistakes, as we know that once this kid gets it, because we see it in practice, we see the talent, we see the work ethic, that now we have this robust offense and we'll be an offensive-centric team. Now, that's backfired on a lot of people. And so is the ball control one, has backfired on a lot of people. And I really don't know where I stand on this. I'm probably more on the be aggressive, live with your mistakes now. What's the difference between going 6-10 and 8-8? If you're going to develop the quarterback and be really, really good the year after. Now, the year after, you're talking 12-4, right? Or 10-6. That's probably where I would go, but I get these guys. I mean, they're coaching for their jobs. They're also answering to people, and they've made a collective decision, a corporate decision in that building, that they're going to mitigate risk, and they're going to play it close to the vest, and they're going to develop Justin Fields slowly and make this offense not boring. They did some really cool things, by the way. Getsy did some really cool things in the first half, offensively. They're not in the passing game, but offensively. And we're going to make this less quarterback-centric this year for Justin Fields.
What Can we follow up on that real quick? Like, so I know we have you on here to talk about Fields, but when you said he did really cool things, it's been a while since the Bears have done anything really cool offensively. What did you like?
A lot of formations, personnel adjustments. The jet motion is a dynamic thing, and they're doing it well. It was blocked really well. It's not just a trick play. Like the jet play, the fly play is a very, very nuanced play. I would call myself an expert in it. We run a lot of it. I've studied it really hard. It's a very, very dynamic play. You take, the guys that do it best in the league are the Rams. Boise State on their last offense coordinator did it really well. Sarkisian does it really. There's about 5 to 7 guys in football that do it really well. He's studied it well. He knows it well. That's going to be a really good play for them. It sets up other stuff. One thing about the fly play is it expands one side of the defense immediately because you have to honor it, so you have to expand. That's one of the reasons why there's such gaping holes in the run game. They did some cool stuff in the run game with reads. Justin was reading the first level and second level in some of those runs. They were mostly gives yesterday because the defense was honoring Justin, but those can easily be keeps if they start pinching in on the back and they don't want the running back to rush for 150 or whatever he rushed for. Now Justin is going to have the edge in the run game, so some really creative run stuff with Justin reading the defense. I did think a couple of the bootleg concepts were unique. They're boots and nakeds. I think they're overusing them a little bit. I love them, and I think they're big for Justin, but like late in the game to call that, to give up the sack was a tough one. But they're doing some creative stuff there. They're running some cool max protection, double layer stuff. In fact, one of the bad mistakes Justin had, one of the sacks, he takes a sack and he has a low corner open. They run a really nice double corner concept with the guy in the flat, and he has the low corner on time. He can rip it out there for about an 18-yard gain, and he passes it up and ends up, I don't know if he scrambled or took a sack on that one. I can't remember. But there was some really creative stuff in the first half offensively. It's one of the reasons why they ran the ball so well. So offense coordinators don't get enough credit for being really good play callers unless they're throwing the ball a lot. The basic fan goes, you're only a great coordinator if your quarterback throws for 300 yards. When in reality, it's kind of harder to scheme up the run game and to find that kind of rushing yards, those kind of rushing yards in the NFL. So I thought they did some really cool things.
Great stuff with Trent Dilfer, who's doing a lot to kind of bring some balance and calm some people, as we're hearing on the text line and on Twitter. See, here's the thing, Trent. I feel like one of the things that I was hoping for all along, we're seeing, as you mentioned, max protect, and they're offering some other help on the edges for him. They ran for 281 yards. That's the most since 1984. This is now the offense where some play action you'd think would open up possibilities. And this is the kind of system where you'd think you'd see more by now. And we're seeing so little success and good reads and positive effect of play action in the quarterback play that's why yesterday was jarring to a lot of us, because they've given him what we wanted them to give him.
Okay, well, let's address that real quick, because I'm not saying I get the perception of it. I think a couple things you got to keep in mind. How many total carries do they have? I don't have the box score in front of me.
I got you. Hold on one second.
It's got to be 35 rushes, I would guess.
Yeah,
40
rushes. That includes field scrambles. As touch
yes. So when you have 250 yards rushing, it's really hard to call passes. Okay. So when you're a coordinator and trying to win the game and you're running the ball at 6-7 yards a clip, it's really hard to call passes because very few things can go wrong in the run game. 3 things can go wrong in the passing game. And that's pretty much every quarter. You talk to Bruce Arians, who's probably as aggressive a play caller as ever lived, and you give him 6-7 yards a clip running the football, he's going to keep running it. All these guys. I remember playing for Holmgren in the year Sean Alexander went off, and I wasn't there the year he won the MVP, but the year before that, Mike loved throwing the ball. He hated calling 93 blast run plays. But if we're averaging 7 yards a carry over Walter Jones and Steve Hutchinson, he was like, I'd be an idiot not to keep calling runs. So that's one thing I think you got to look at is you're going to see less pass attempts, and the stats are going to be bad in the passing game if you're running the ball that way. The second thing is this. I would argue that there were 5 to 7 really good play action passes. They have the naked to the right first series of the game. That is successful. They have a naked left later in the game that's successful. They have a naked right that's incomplete, or a bootleg right, the tight end, the rookie tight end on the backside doesn't stop in the hole and Fields tries to throw him in the backside hole and the guy just keeps running to get covered. It's a basic pull up. I mean, most tight ends know that. So that was on the tight end. They had the action, the play action where he rips it to Mooney, the one I was talking about in the fourth quarter. That was a big, 14, 16-yard chunk play, got him a first down. I'm forgetting one other. So that's 5, I think, that are good play action passes that come off the run game. So I think volume becomes the argument here. Is we all are victim of looking at a box score and saying, oh, Tom Brady didn't play very well. He wasn't Tom Brady because he went 14 for 23 for 182 and a touchdown interception. Well, we forget to look down the box score and say, oh, they had 42 rushes and averaged 4.8 yards a carry. And they rushed for 200 yards.
And I think that is like largely fair, and the context is obviously significant when you're talking about quantity and the run game, because the run game's been amazing in 2 of their 3 games, and the other game was in a monsoon. But I think what Bears fans are going through is it was the Texans at home, and now it's 3 games. It's not a huge sample, but I mean, he doesn't have 300 yards passing yet on the year. He's 32nd in the NFL in completion percentage and air yards per attempt and yards per game and sack rate and interception percentage. You know what I mean? Like, it's the stats are horrifying in a 3-game, 12-quarter sample, and that in the aggregate, in the totality of it, still doesn't really concern you.
Well, no, I'm concerned. Please, I started by saying I don't want to be an apologist for Justin. If you throw 2 interceptions, it's a bad day, right? So turning the ball, and I throw 117 in my career, so I know a lot of bad days.
Yeah, okay.
So when you turn the ball over, when you give it to the other team, especially when they're your fault, right? They're not tip balls at the line of scrimmage. They're not, batted balls off receivers' hands. When they're your fault, that's a bad day. And I would say for that reason, I would grade his day a C- D+ because he turned the ball over.
Well, D+ would be the best that anybody's given him
Yeah.
in this town, Trent. I want to ask you about one more thing. After that second interception, he has a play on the next drive, 3rd and 9, and he's scrambling to the right and ends up just kind of running out of bounds near the line of scrimmage. And he talked about it after the game. You could tell, he said that he was worried about going over the line of scrimmage to throw like he did last week, and worried about throwing to Mooney. It's now 2 weeks in a row. I'd say we have 4 or 5 plays, the likes of which we had never seen before, which look like, oh no, he's overwhelmed. So is he thinking too much? Is he overwhelmed? And does that go away ever?
I thought early on, he showed signs of that. Now, on that play, I didn't see what was going on downfield. That's the one where he kind of ducks underneath the guy that jumps. He pump fakes the guy.
Yes,
that one. I couldn't see what's going on downfield, so I don't know if he had a throw to make or not. But to answer your question about the overwhelmed, I thought after the first interception, he looked a little shook. And I was going to bring up the bucket analogy.
Yeah.
I thought the stuff bucket, right? The stuff bucket, like you're made of the right stuff, showed a little leakage there. His body language looked a little weird. He didn't bounce back right away, almost like he was carrying the weight of the world. Mm-hmm. And then he rebounded. And again, I thought some of the signs after that, he showed some positive things. It does seem to me, and this is to be critical, and this happened to me, so I'll speak from personal experience. When you're not having a game called for you like you're the man, which obviously these are not being called as he's the man. He's part of the plan. He's not the plan. You tend to kind of retreat into this. Looking for a term here? Like, I want to say your confidence. You don't struggle with confidence. You become a little tentative because you want to do well. You want to be compliant. You want to win the game. You're part of a collective, right? It's an entire organization you're representing out there Sunday. You want to get the win, so you don't want to do anything wrong. And if you're sensing that, I got to be careful, I have to be safe, you tend to kind of go into a shell a little bit and not play as instinctively, as aggressively as you would like to play. The weight of the world tends to feel a little bit more on you. I can definitely see that becoming a problem in this situation with this type of managerial type quarterbacking game. I hope I'm not trying to be too esoteric. I'm just trying to give you the mind into a quarterback.
Yeah.
That's not how he's ever had to play before. And that happens to a lot of us when you've been the dude, you've come from explosive, aggressive college offenses and you get in the NFL and you're kind of asked to be something you've never been before, a lot of times it's a very hard adjustment to learn how to play that style of football.
Trent Dilfer, great stuff. We got in a ton of messages like, he's making me feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
Not panicked as much as panicked.
I like the texter who says that he wishes he could watch football with you on a Sunday. He'd be much less emotional during the course of the day.
And again, please let me leave this. I know we're running out of time. I'm not saying Justin's playing good. Please don't hear me say that. I'm saying that it's not as bad as I read this morning. I got up and read some Chicago stuff. I read some online stuff, which is I never do. But I wanted to get a temperament for how bad the fan base was taking it. And I'm like, there needs to be some balance here because it's not like he was tripping over his own feet. He can't walk and chew gum. He did nothing good. I remember watching, I'm not going to use his name. I remember watching a quarterback play when I was in ESPN, and we go on TV, and I'm like, what I should say is they need to fire him now. There's no chance, and he'll never, ever, ever be a good quarterback in the NFL. This was a first-round pick. And I was right. I didn't say those things. But there are times you see these first rounders play and you're like, no chance. He will never, ever, 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 ever be successful. It's either a talent thing, a composure thing, a processing thing. There's a lot of things. And I've seen it 2 or 3 times with first rounders. I do not think that with Justin. I think there's going to be some pretty long growing pains here, but you're also going to see enough flash as this year goes on. They're going to say, oh, okay, I see where we're headed.
Trent Dilfer, great stuff. We'll talk after the Giants game. Thank you.
All right. See you guys.
Thank you.